Okay. So you're all welcome back to week 2. Hope your week has been going well so far. We'll cover a wee bit of what we did last week, and then we've got lots to get through today in terms of more skills and more learning. And at the end then, if anybody has any questions, take a wee note of them and we'll do our best to get through those as well, okay? And I have 1 or 2 wee points from some emails that I've had as well, so I will address those too. Okie dokie, so thank you for joining us for another week, taking an hour out of your time and committing it to yourself. Our aim for today is to look more on the physical side of things and look deeper into the Love the Body You're In model, and to help you more with specific tools and actions that you can continue to take as you improve and transform your relationship with food, body, eating and weight, okay? Okay, so let's have a wee chat, a wee recap then about where we went last week. So last week we looked at the core of the model, and we looked at understanding, especially dieting at a deeper level. And we looked at a principle of intuitive eating, actually, which I'll talk a bit more about today, which is called the reject the diet mentality. And we went really deep into the, you know, some of the research around it, really deep into the fact of how dieting is, you know, really harmful, how the body reacts to it, and, you know, how we're really in this pervasive culture, if you like, of the dieting industry, and it's really everywhere. But actually all the research and the evidence and the way forward is to reject that and to start to let the notion of starving your body, of restricting your body, to let that go. And we went further in then to looking at why that's the case. And what we looked at is how we get caught in this cycle, the diet binge cycle, of how we start to, you know, want to diet or want to do something or have these strong feelings about our body and our weight. Excuse me, and then, you know, that puts us into a whole preoccupation with food. We're nutritionally deprived, we break our rules, we've all or nothing thinking, we're so negative to ourselves, and eventually it leads to overeating and binge eating, and that is just a perpetuated cycle by dieting, okay? And the other thing then that keeps us binge eating is also our moods and our emotions and how we regulate those. We looked at the diet binge pendulum, and we looked at how every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and how on one side of the pendulum we have, you know, restrictive dieting, and the other side we have binging, and then how we have overeating, undereating and overeating. And then really what we're looking for is we're looking for balance. We're looking to go up the middle and find balance in our life as well, okay? And, you know, with the diet binge pendulum, with the cycle, how do we get out of that? Well, we get out of it through the Love the Body You're In model, which is really looking at how we're functioning in our mind, in our physical body, managing our emotions, and how we're feeling about ourselves. And it's quite it's a toolkit. I like to think of it as a toolkit, and there's one thing is learning the toolkit, and then the other side is daily practicing, and it's daily practicing then until it becomes second nature for life as well, okay? So we have set goals. We've looked at, you know, why we want to do this work. Why do we want to undertake these practices? We've set some of our goals. We're looking at where we would like to go, what's really painful about where we're at, what's more pleasurable about, you know, taking these changes on board. And we've started to introduce some 2 light ones, I like to call them, just nice ones, such as, you know, getting sleep, and making sure our body is getting that rest and that repair and that downtime, you know, and everything it needs in order to get us through the next day as well, okay? So, you know, just ask yourself, how has your sleeping? And also hydration, you know, getting in the water, getting the body hydrated either through sipping it or taking glasses of it or having your bottle and measuring it, and really just doing your best with it as well, okay? So that's where we're at so far. Again, you know, we just have the Love the Body You're In model. So we've looked at the understanding and awareness there. We've looked at our goals, you know, we focused on some motivation and how change works. And today where we're going is we're going into more the physical side of things. And I have some bigger concepts for you, which I'm going to give you 3 today, and I could probably spend an hour on each of these concepts easily. So I'm going to give you the best of what I can of all these different concepts and tools today, and it's going to be more on the physical side of the model today, okay? So we have looked at this in the last couple of weeks, so I invite you to check in and just notice, because what I invite you to notice is that how we're very good at being negative. So you might be sitting here now and saying, you know, oh, I haven't done anything, or I've done this, this, and this, and pointing out all the negative things that, you know, you might still be doing, or that you might want to change and haven't changed yet, and things like that. But what I would invite you to do is really look for those positive changes that you have been making as well, okay? And really try and find the things that, do you know what, actually 2 weeks ago, this is where I was at. This week, you know, I've maybe thought a wee bit more about it. I've slowed down, you know, so go through your list and just think, what's going on for you this week? What has started to change for you this week? You know, in terms of your eating, is there any changes there? And there may or may not be, because we have only scratched the surface of this process. So maybe you're a bit more relaxed about it. Maybe you're not so restrictive on all the dieting foods or the dieting thoughts even that you've been having. What about drinking? Have you managed to you know, increase any sort of hydration? Are you focusing on your water, or your, you know, your cordials, or whatever? You know, how has your drinking? Are you thinking maybe a wee bit more about alcohol in terms of, you know, how you're fitting that in? Maybe you're not, but just notice whatever is going on for you. What about moving? There may or may not be any changes in moving. Have you thought about it? Are you taking any action around that? Has your thinking started to change? Because that's one of the most fundamental things, is your thought process, okay? And even the fact, you know, we covered a lot last week and in depth about how dieting doesn't work. And if that's the first time that you have heard that, that takes a lot of processing as well. You know, I remember whenever I started, after spending years as a slimming consultant, finding all this research and all this stuff that all of a sudden nobody had ever told you, you hadn't seen it, but here it was sitting in black and white, and just blew my mind, thinking, how can it be the case that we're in a society where all we're taught is to diet, and we're doing it, a lot of us are doing it for a long time, and then, you know, here's this research to say it doesn't work, and you start to intuitively know that it fits with what your experience has been, you know, but you've probably been blaming yourself. So has your thinking started to change? And what about your feelings? You know, are you noticing any feelings more? And you may or may not, because we haven't done any feeling work yet, but just notice, you know, how has that shifted any of your thoughts? So are you starting to think and feel a wee bit differently about yourself as well? Any change that you notice that's going in the right direction for you is fantastic, and really give yourself a pat on the back. Any change that you still want to work on, or maybe things that haven't changed or haven't went your way this week, we be compassionate and curious. We do not be judgmental. We just give ourselves all the compassion we need, and we just be curious and say, how interesting. One of my mentors taught me that really good simple sentence is, how interesting. You know, isn't it interesting that that's what I'm doing? Isn't it interesting that this is the way I think, and yet this is how my behavior's following through? And that curiosity allows you to open up, then take a step back from the behavior and start to work with it and changing it from a non-judgmental point of view as well. Okay. So let me introduce a concept to you this week called intuitive eating, okay? And I don't know if any of you may have heard about it, you may be familiar with it, or it might be brand new to you as well, okay? So intuitive eating, intuitive eater is someone who makes food choices without guilt or ethical dilemma. They honor hunger, respects fullness, and enjoys the pleasure of eating. The most significant achievement is gaining a healthy relationship with food and body. It's based on 10 principles that are woven within the Love the Body You're In model, and it normalizes and heals your relationship with food. So intuitive eating was a framework that was introduced 25 years ago by Elise Rice and Evelyn LTBYI in America. I have the privilege of training with Evelyn. It's something I came to about 3 or 4 years ago, you know, the concept of intuitive eating. It's just got more and more researched as the years have went on, and it's really something that's going to be coming in, I would say, a lot more in the next 5 years. You'll be hearing a lot more about this concept of intuitive eating as well, okay? So it has 10 principles, and the principles are woven within the Love the Body You're In model. So the very first principle is to reject the diet mentality, which is something that we talked about last week, and today we're going to be looking at some other principles within it and how they fit together. But really, what we're looking to do is to connect with our body, to heal our body and heal our relationship with food, and become intuitive eaters. And intuitive eating is a practice as well, okay? So the focus, as I've always said, it's not on weight loss, as it sabotages the process of healing your relationship with food. So for some people that can cause a relief and a relaxation. For other people it can cause a bit of angst and stress. But there's a lot of research that says when we finally let go of focusing on weight loss, we actually can get to really fully heal our relationship with our body and ourselves as well. A weight loss can happen as a byproduct of intuitive eating. It's not that we're against weight loss at all, but it's not the focus. And if the weight you're at right now, so this is a good thought to think, if the weight you're at right now is a result of years of not turning or tuning even into hunger and fullness, years of restricting and slowing your metabolism, and maybe being sedentary, because movement is associated with exercise for weight loss, it's likely that through intuitive eating you'll end up at your natural weight at some point. So weight focus has to be on the back burner, because any thought and decisions about weight is going to contaminate decisions about eating and sabotage the entire process. So if where you've got right now, if you've been dieting, like last week we done the wee chart and we looked at how dieting slows the metabolism and drives the set point up. If through dieting then you only exercise for weight loss, and whenever the diet's not happening and the exercise is out the window, perhaps you become more sedentary, or because you're not liking your body and you're not liking moving it as well. And if we look at the pendulum, where we are either restricting or we're overeating, or we're restricting or we're binging, then we've actually learned to tune out of our signals and we've stopped listening to our body. So if that has happened for a long period of time, chances are then we may not be at our natural weight, and chances are by tuning into that then, and we're more likely to be at our natural weight, but we don't focus on it. We focus on the practices and see what happens. And equally, we could be somebody could be on this, it's underweight, somebody could be overweight, somebody could be the right natural weight for their body. It just might not be the weight that they like, and they're just looking to heal their relationship with food as well. Okay, so just a word about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about this concept, and it's called hyperconsciousness. Okay, so in this work, in the initial stages of this work, there is phases of it, if you like. And the first phase is to understand, which I have been doing. And the next phase then is to become hyper conscious. I'm not sure I like the word, but it is what it is, okay? But really what it's saying is about, we're going to focus on ourselves, on our internal world, and on our signals. If you want to think of hyper consciousness in dieting is an external thing. So if you think of any of the diets you become hyper conscious of, everything external, of food and all of that. But this is different. This is about becoming conscious of going within and listen to your body, okay? So after years of tuning out of your internal signals or using external plans to guide your eating, then you may find that you have disconnected, and we're going to reconnect. So it's important to become reacquainted with your intuitive signals of hunger, taste preferences, satisfaction, and satiety. Okay, so we're going to start to take the journey within and start to reacquaint ourselves with our signals and listen to our body. So hyperconsciousness is when you become immensely aware of your signals and you focus on what is going on in your mind and body until it becomes automatic. And it's like driving a car. So I want you, for anybody who drives a car, do you remember the first time you got in and literally you had your hands on the steering wheel and you were shaking, and you had your hands on the gear stick, and everything was like gear stick, gears, feet, pedals, and you just were so aware, and then you were trying to be aware of what was going on. And eventually the more and more you did it, the more you learned how to drive the car, and now you get in and you don't even think about it. So tuning back into your body, in order to tune back in, we have to go through this phase of what's my body saying, how am I going to listen to it as well, okay? So the things we're going to look at today, we're going to look at connecting to your hunger, so honoring your hunger and feeling your fullness. So what does that even mean? How do we even do that? What does that even look like? We're going to look at food. So let's get into the nutritional side, the food side, because we get loads of questions around that, and start to make peace with food, discover the satisfaction factor of food, and look at gentle nutrition, look at food in a more gentle way. And another skill then that we're going to have is in planning. We're going to learn the art of planning. And I don't want you to think of this as in planning the way diets would have taught you to plan, that you have to eat broccoli, chicken and rice and foods you don't like in diet foods. We're going to think about planning in a whole different way, which is really, really going to help you as well, okay? So honoring your hunger is one principle in intuitive eating. Feeling your fullness is another one. Making peace with food is another one. Discovering satisfaction is another one. And gentle nutrition is another one. So there's 5 of the 10 already listed there. And you can see how these fit in then to the Love the Body You're In model. Okay, so let's look at connecting and trusting your body. So the very first thing we're going to look doing is let's connect in. Let's start to listen to yourself. So think of how many times have you counted calories, macros, units, maybe points of things and sins, okay? And what we need to learn to do is we need to learn to start to trust our bodies, because the only thing that you're ever going to need when it comes to eating is your stomach and your brain. Is thinking here in your head and listening to what's going on down here and having that dialogue between the two of them to help you make decisions, okay? So you don't need a piece of paper in front of you that tells you what's on or what's off or how many points. You just need to listen to your body, and I can't emphasize that enough, okay? Your body does not complicate things. It's really good at being straightforward, and the trouble is that we are not so good at listening to it, okay? We eat for 1,000 other reasons per day other than I'm hungry. So I want you to think of a typical day that you have your food, and ask yourself, how much do you listen, or have you been listening to your signals? How much do you know when you're coming to that eating experience? How hungry have you been? How much would you be aware of when you're stopping that eating experience? How full up or how satisfied, or you know, where are you with that as well? How much of your eating is done unconsciously, okay? So let's have a look here. If you can imagine, this is a little scale. So imagine this is a little ruler, and 0 is neutral. So this is called the Connect scale. So 0 is neutral. I am neither hungry or I'm not full. I'm just neutral. I'm not really feeling anything at the minute, okay? If we go to the plus side then, is, you know, probably not sure, but you're probably not really hungry. So that's a +1. Start eating, so you're into a nearly full then. So you're like, yeah, I'm eating, I'm nearly full. And then 3 is you've just full, satisfied, content feeling, slightly energized, probably could have a bit more if you wanted to, but actually, you know, this is the sweet spot. 4 then is very full and not pleasant. So 4 is sort of like, you know, the waistband starting to tighten, starting to feel like maybe windy or burpy, or just that slight uncomfortable feeling of, you know, roll me off this chair. 5 then is Christmas Day, uncomfortably full and stuffed. So 5 is, you know, full on, food is in there, perhaps binging, perhaps, you know, really disconnected, really overeating, really just, you know, it's just not a nice feeling at all, okay? So those are the plus side of the scale. And then we also have, if we go to the other side then, which is our hunger side, okay? So that's our fullness side, and let's have a look at our hunger side as well. So -1 then is not sure, probably a wee bit hungry. So am I hungry? Am I not hungry? It's been a while since I've ate, could be a wee bit hungry, you know, at -1. -2 then is slightly hungry, slightly empty. So you're sort of starting to feel that emptiness coming in the stomach. Yeah, there's some starting here, you know, hunger's sort of here, even though I feel maybe I could hold on for 20 minutes or so. 3 is I am hungry, ready to eat. 3 is like, you know, give me my food now, I'm feeling ready for it, my body's looking at it, the tank's empty, get it in. 4 is very hungry, irritable. So do you know that when you've had a meeting and the meeting has rolled on and you were meant to eat half an hour ago and you were hungry half an hour ago? That's probably your -4. If you ever go out to a restaurant, if you're doing any of the eat out to help out at the minute, I don't know what it's like up with you, but with us, it's very busy and you have to wait a long time for your food. And I was out on Monday night because I was getting my kitchen in, so there was no way anything was being cooked. And it was an hour before anything was served. And I'm telling you, we literally went from -3 to -4 to -5 by the time the food came. So very hungry, irritable, and then -5 is extreme hunger, urgently want to eat, where you have, you know, you're just, that's it, you're famished, okay? So this is the Connect scale, and what we're going to look to do is we're going to start to use this scale every single time we're going to eat. And this is where the hyper consciousness comes in. this is where it starts to, you start to connect in and be aware, and we're raising our awareness, okay? So here's a little question for you. How hungry or full are you right now? What is your number right now? So just write it down. So I'll take it back. There you go. How hungry or full, where are you on the scale right now? Okay. And did you find that easy?
Yeah.
Yep. So so do you see how, and this is subjective, this is where you just listen to yourself and your body will give you a number, okay? Your body will say, this is where I'm at. It'll give you the number, okay? And this is what we're going to look to do whenever we go to eat, is listen to your body and start to trust our signals, okay? So the Connect scale is designed to eat when you're hungry and then stop when you've just had enough, to stop eating whenever you're delightfully satisfied. It works best -3 to +3, and you've plenty of energy from eating this way. So if we go back, so we want to really wait until we're hungry and ready to eat. So it's about waking up in the morning, checking in with yourself, and being ready at your -3. Listen to when I'm at -3, and then listening to when you get to +3. And this is where it takes practice and patience. And then noticing actually when again the body gets to -3 and you stop at +3. Now what I would encourage you, this is not about making any rigid rules. This is a guideline. This is about learning a new way of connecting with your body. If you make this into a rule, you're back in dieting territory. But if you start to listen to your body and say, I'm really going to connect with my body, then it works best like that as well, okay? So most people start to say then, there's a couple of things. What does hunger feel like, okay? So I want you to think of the last time you were hungry. So we'll take it back actually to the question. Think of the last time you were hungry and write down, what did it feel like? So list all the sensations in your body. What did you notice? What did it feel like? What are you familiar with that hunger feels like to you? So what do you notice? So think of your mind, think of the physical body, think of, what do you start feeling within the body? Where do you feel it? Think of anything that mightn't be obvious as well. Sometimes we go straight to hunger is, it should be, I have a growling in my stomach, but actually, is there any earlier signs that maybe you miss or you don't notice as well, okay? So let's have a look at some of them and see. So your body sends you signs. Stomach might feel slightly empty, so you might check on the stomach and be like, yeah, there's an emptiness there. You might get a growl. You may not. Personally, my stomach doesn't growl until it's maybe at -5, which is interesting. Some people think the stomach has to growl, and when it growls, I am hungry. You might notice you're distracted. So say you're working or you're doing something, all of a sudden you might notice that food comes into your mind and you're distracted and you start thinking about food, and you might think of the last time I ate, and you're thinking, am I hungry? Should I be hungry? But you're not actually feeling a growling in the stomach. Concentration goes, so maybe you've been fine working away on something, whatever it happens to be, and all of a sudden you can't seem to hold that concentration. Energy can dip. Are you feeling slightly tired? Just a wee lethargic bit? Shallow breathing. Sometimes your breathing becomes shallow, and sometimes mouth can start to water as well. So what I invite you to do this week is tune in. What are my hunger signals? Okay, so start to nail down and be curious. What are my hunger signals? For me, as I said, like one of the most interesting thing was it's not actually stomach growling. That's way down the line for me. It's actually starting to notice, think about food and maybe think, when was the last time I've eaten? And just notice the distractions coming in, the concentrations going, and then, yeah, maybe I'm hungry, I should eat now. Because one of the things, and again, this is where you observe yourself, that I was doing is if I ignored that, I started to nibble and nibble and nibble and nibble, and I'm like, actually, you were hungry, so it's being familiar with your own hunger signals as well, okay? And again, be aware, curious, and non-judgmental, and take time. Okay, so let's go back then to a question about hunger and full right now, and think then, when you feel full, so when you feel comfortably full, not Christmas Day stuffed. When you feel comfortably full, just nice, energized, satisfied, and you just had enough, how do you know? How do you know? So write down your signals of how do you know, what does your body do and your mind do to tell you that you've just had enough? Okay. So you want to aim to feel just full, satisfied, and just content. I can't tell you how many books and experts, they talk about this in different ways. They sort of talk about it in different ways, but they all mean the same thing. You know, kind of getting that 80% feeling, and that you leave the table just satisfied, just energized. You know, just a nice amount of food in the stomach, and feeling. You know, maybe you could have a few bites more, which would push you over the edge to uncomfortably full, but you don't. So you want to be able to connect with that content, satisfied feeling in the stomach. It's a feeling, it's not a heaviness. It's not a, you know, when you eat and you feel heavy and lethargic after eating, the mind starts wandering. Maybe you've lost interest in food. So maybe you're sitting down and you're eating your food, and then all of a sudden you get to a point through it where, you know, your mind is off on one. Chances are there, and you know, you've started to reach that point, providing you've tuned in to start with. If your mind has been wandering from the minute you started eating because of devices or TV or things like that, you will find this more difficult. So I do recommend that you avoid that as much as possible. Okay, I'll tell you interesting research behind that in a minute. Your breathing can feel labored, so you can feel like, you know, maybe sort of more labored around the breath. And you may notice a little sigh. So watch out for this one. This may be something that you do, but you actually have never noticed. So you might notice that actually you get a sigh. And you know, you're so far into your dinner, and then you just get this sigh, and just notice, check in with your satisfaction and fullness at that level. Chances are you're there. You might begin to wonder if you need another bite or two. Most of the time you don't. So you might start to say, no, do I need any more? Should I have any more? Is this fullness? Is this not? You know, you'll start to experiment with this. And again, you might start burping or feeling windy. And if that's the case, then you've gone past it as well. Okay. So again, you really want to start connecting with feeling of, you know, that fullness, that +3. How do I know when to stop? How do I know to listen to my body? What are the signals it gives me to tell me that I've had enough? So I do invite you, when you come to eat anything, okay, so here's a couple of tips as well, is to get a really lovely eating spot. Okay, so pick your eating spot if you can, you know, your table and your chair or whatever. Make it really nice and special. So, you know, if you have lovely flowers on it or a candle on it, get good crockery and good cutlery, even just for you. The family are happy eating whatever they want from, but you know, you want this to be a nice experience. Okay, where possible, limit TV and devices when eating. If you think about it, we don't have a lot of time for eating during the day, as in, if you were to add up all the minutes that you spend eating during the day and having this food, it's actually not a lot out of the 24 hours. So we really want to be giving ourselves the mindfulness and our attention to the eating experience. And there's a number of different reasons for this. So one is we have a thing called CPDR, which is a fancy term, the cephalic phase digestive response. And really what it says, cephalic means off the head. And really what it is about is that when you come to eat, all your digestion and simulation starts when you see and you smell and you're about to eat the food. That starts the process. And research shows that we don't assimilate our food by as much as 30% when we're not paying attention to it. Mad, isn't it? There's also been other research to show on the uptake of our nutrients. So they did an experiment where they had somebody eat food and they measured their sodium and chloride, two of their minerals, the uptake of the minerals. Sodium was definitely one, I think chloride was the other one, and they had 100% uptake within the hour whenever they focused on what they were eating. They then got people to talk in their ears, called dichotomous thinking, so they distracted the brain, and they had a 50% uptake within the hour. because the brain was distracted from the eating experience. So in order to get the most out of the nutrients and the absorption of your food, you actually need to be paying attention. They also give people food, and they got them to sit in front of a cinema, big screen. The people who didn't, they monitored their digestive process, and it was normal. And the people who sat and watched in front of the screen, it slowed down the digestive process, but it slowed it down to a level where it increased toxicity in the body. It became autotoxic, that it wasn't processing through the body in the way that it should as well. So that loads of different wee experiments and research behind the fact that we should be paying attention to our food. And also, it's thinking about, why do we not? So dieting has probably conditioned us as well, that maybe we're not eating the most delicious food, but when you've delicious food in front of you, you want to savor that food. I often say to my clients, it's like, think of it like dating your food. You're going on a date with your food. It's the best date you've ever had. You want to give it all the attention that you can and savor every bit of it as well, okay? So think of that when it comes to each of your eating experiences as well. Okay. So eating because we want to is not hunger. So ask yourself, how many times do you eat just because you want to and you're not actually hungry? And I would invite you to notice that this week. How many times is it just because I want to, and it's not actually hunger, okay? And we want to shift to focusing on hunger and fullness. So this is about paying attention, making guesses, having it as a practice, tweaking your eating, and avoid I've blown it eating. It's not about the hunger fullness rule. Of course, there's going to be times when we do eat because something is pleasurable, or it's birthday and somebody's birthday cake or whatever. But I invite you to notice how many times you're eating when it's not hunger, and because you feel like it, or there's something that's going on. Okay. So what might come up? So when it comes to starting to eat whenever you're hungry and stop whenever you've had enough, and really tune in to this, there are things that it's going to start throwing up for you. Now remember, anything that it throws up for you, it's really good, because we want to take note of that and we're going to learn from that. And this is giving you the opportunity to dig deeper into your food and your relationship with food and learn something, okay? So what you're going to notice, chances are you will notice that you just don't need as much food. That actually the amount of food done outside of hunger and fullness, depending on your situation, can be a lot more than what actually it takes to keep you full and satisfied. So that's the first thing people just notice, that I just don't actually need as much food because I'm not hungry, I'm eating, I'm satisfied, I'm waiting to the next experience, and it's quite an enlightening experience, okay? The other thing then is people can start to feel bad about overeating in the past. So we're going to drop all judgment. We can't change the past. We're not giving it the negativity or the criticism. We're just going to let that go and be grateful that here we are learning a new relationship with food and learning now to reconnect with the body, okay? So one of the things that might throw up for you is actually, all that times that I was, eating all of that extra food, and, my body didn't really need it. But again, no judgment. Sometimes you have a fear of getting too hungry as well, okay? So at any point when you feel that hunger, you can eat. This is about experimenting with your eating experience as well, okay? So, some people do have a fear of getting hunger, and that is something to be explored deeper. Maybe there was food insecurity in the past. Maybe there's times whenever in the past you were let go hungry, things like that as well, okay? So it's about really noticing what that fear says and being prepared then to let yourself eat. Some people don't want to waste food. This is a biggie, okay? In Northern Ireland, we're a culture of people who were told all our lives about the starving children in Africa, and we had to eat our vegetables and we had to not leave any food, and it's a sin to waste food. And really it's about working with that and getting used to actually letting that food go. So if you don't want to waste the food, take it off your plate, put it away, eat it as leftovers the next day, or else just get used to finding an amount of food, that you're happy to put on your plate, and that is get you to your fullness point, but you still might have some bites left, and just really try to get used to that feeling of, letting that food go. putting it, putting it in the waste and just letting it go. Part of our training, whenever we were in London, actually, one of the things they made us do was they made us go and buy food and throw it in the bin. They actually said, you need to understand what that feeling is like. Perfectly good food, and throw it out. And I remember there was like 100 of us in the course, and I wanted to say to one of the nearest homeless people, if you go to that bin, you'll just get all the food you ever need, because it was, sandwiches and everything. It was unbelievable. But it was about getting used to that feeling that we're not the bins. We do not need to eat all that food and waste it on ourselves. It has to go. Another big one is feeling sad. So you've sat down, you've made the most delicious food, and you've sat down and you've reached your +3, and your +3 is your put down the knife and fork point, and you still have that food on the plate. Believe you me, that brings a feeling of sadness. It can bring a feeling of sadness of, I want to eat more, but I'm honoring my body, I'm honoring my fullness, and I'm stopping. And just know that might be part of it, that feeling, okay? Especially if it's something really delicious. And sometimes why we don't listen to our fullness is because we think, I don't know when I'm going to get this again, okay? So if you're eating out, if you're with friends, if it's an afternoon tea, if you're whatever, if it's a restaurant that you haven't been in a while, you mightn't be back here, so I'm going to, eat like this as well. So just notice that thought as well, and just work with that thought. It's just a thought, and continue listening to your body as well, okay? So that is that one. Okay, so let's have a wee talk about just tell me what to eat. So people who usually come in and see me are expecting me to give them a diet plan, and are expecting me to tell them, this is what you have to eat, this is what you have to do, where you go and follow this, just like every other plan out there, and that's the magic wand, it'll be waved. But that's not the case, okay? So here is some tips when it comes to nutrition and nourishment and food. So we want to start by focusing on adding in real whole foods. We want to add to your diet. We want to add the nutrition, and we want to add the nutrients in, and we'll be talking a wee bit more about that in a minute. Eat the highest quality option of food available to you at any given time. I also have this separated out in a different slide, because if you could pick one nutritional sentence that you could give to anybody for the rest of their life, or you could live by yourself for the rest of your life, is to eat the highest quality of food available to you at any given time, okay? So I had a talk last week, and one of the service users says to me, but surely, is microwaving food not bad for you? People shouldn't be microwaving food, it's bad for you. And there was all this judgment around microwaving food. And how I answered that was, it's all relative, and it's all about quality, and it's in any given moment. So if, for example, you have decided to skip a lunch and go without lunch because you're not making the gourmet, beautiful lunch that you perceive that you should have, would having a microwavable food not be better quality than having nothing and restricting your body? Yes, it would. If, for example, then you were going to have heavily processed food, would a microwavable ready meal be better quality than that in that given moment? Chances are, yes, it is. If, for example, you've got a lot more time and you want to make a nice, fresh, nutritious meal, then would that be better quality than the microwavable? Yes, it is. But it's according to what's going on with you in your life at any given time. So always elevate the quality of your food as much as you can at any given time within your own circumstances. And that's dependent on your own budget, your own work schedule, your own feelings of, health that week, whatever's going on for you, in any particular day or week. So we want to eat a variety of foods. We want to eat regularly within a 12-hour window, and we want to permit processed foods. So there's none of this, and we'll go into it now in more detail, clean eating, all unprocessed food, anything like that. If we don't have processed food in our diet, from a rule point of view, if it's a rule point of view and it's something that you are actively restricting, if you just don't feel like having processed foods, that's fine. But it's about not having the rules and the guilt then around when we do introduce it. Okay. So we want to focus on adding in real whole foods, okay? So it can be useful to think of food as a continuum, okay? So if you want to think of food as unprocessed, mildly processed, and highly processed. So all energy comes from the sun. All energy on this planet comes from the sun. We as human beings cannot get our energy from the sun. We can't stand, yes, we get vitamin D, and if you're lucky enough, unlike me, you might get a nice tan. If you've that sort of skin, then, you know, the energy comes from the sun, but we can't absorb it. So what does absorb it is our plants and our animals, okay? And then we get the choice to eat the plants and or the animals, okay? So anything which is unprocessed is 100% itself. We then have mildly processed foods, which is where we take the unprocessed foods and we start to make nutritious meals. And you can look at that and you can make out, you know, there's a soup or a salad or a stew. You can sort of see what's in it. And then we have highly processed foods. So food is literally on a continuum or a spectrum. One end, we have the unprocessed, moving more into the mildly, moving more into the highly processed foods. Okay, let me see. So the unprocessed foods is anything which is 100% itself. So fruit, veg, nuts, seeds, eggs, fish, meat, poultry, seafood, yogurt, milk, grains. Those are 100% themselves. Moderately processed actually then is your salad, your soup, your stews, your smoothies, your casseroles, your curries, your omelets, and your cheese. Your yogurt actually should be under moderately. So anything then, you know, which you look at and you roughly know what's in it is moderately. And then you have your highly processed stuff. So food is not good or bad. Food is morally neutral. So I want you to think of it like this. If I had a knife in my hand, is a knife good or bad? Okay. So some people might say, oh, it's good. Some people might say it's bad. Some people might say it's neither. If I use the knife for life-saving surgery, is the knife good or bad? Then you might say, oh, the knife is good. If I use the knife to destroy a beautiful antique painting, is the knife good or bad? You might say the knife's bad. But the knife is actually morally neutral. And I know this is a concept which, you know, if we've been used to dieting and thinking of food as good or bad, and we can get caught up on, but it's about starting to think of food as just food and letting go of the moralities around it. The food is not good or bad. Food is a collection of nutrients and ingredients. And it's our choice then of how we put our food together. But it's not good or bad. Sometimes I like to think of it that all food is good food, some food is better, and some food is best. And it's important that we bring all food to the table. So we will eat foods the foods which are unprocessed, those contain all our micronutrients and our macronutrients that we need. So all our vitamins and our minerals and our proteins, carbs, and our fats that we need, we get those from unprocessed food. The more we process it, the more we take out the nutrients, and the more, you know, you're getting your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. And the more highly processed foods you go, chances are they don't give you a lot, but they're giving you pleasure. They're the stuff that's making the brain go ding ding. Okay, so it's important that we find balance and we permit all foods, and we look at our dieting rules and we bring foods to the table and start to listen to our hunger and our fullness with these foods as well. Okay, so it's about letting go of the food rules around food that you have as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about quality of it then. So real food, the unprocessed food, allows us to feel our natural hunger and satiety signals, and it balances our cravings. We live in an environment that pushes processed foods, and we have to manage and navigate this environment as best we can. And how we do that is by elevating the quality. So quality means real, whole, homemade, locally produced, nutrient dense, and fresh. So we're looking not to restrict, not to, you know, keep our calories low, and we're looking to give these nutrients to our body, and we're looking to give things in balance as well, all while listening to your hunger and our fullness. Okay. Okay, so you're learning to connect, you're learning to listen to your body, you're learning to bring all foods to the table and to stop when you've had enough. That is the key. And be aware, sometimes when people start with intuitive eating, they think it's, I can eat whatever I want, as much as I want, whenever I feel like a trap. That's not the case. You're learning to honor your hunger. You're learning to choose foods which will satisfy you. So that in that moment might be a piece of chocolate cake. okay? That in that moment might be, you know, some apple and hummus. That in that moment might be the most delicious, beautiful curry that you can actually make as well, okay? So you're waiting till you're hungry, you're choosing these beautiful, satisfying foods, and you're stopping whenever you've had enough. You're learning to listen and connect to your body. It's a big concept and it takes practice, okay? So the third thing I want to introduce for you today then is the concept of planning and helping you plan your food, okay? So it makes life and your relationship with food so much easier. There is a difference between realistic and wishful planning. We are going to adopt realistic plans and we want to meet yourself where you're at. So we're going to focus on one, making decisions ahead of time. Take a few minutes to do it and give it to yourself as a gift. And two, the most important thing is to be realistic. It's your version of what you can eat that day, even if right now you're planning foods you've previously told yourself you can't have, okay? So when it comes to planning is about ahead of time, either the night before or that morning, giving yourself a few minutes and thinking, what am I going to eat today? Okay, what am I going to eat today? How can I honor my hunger and my fullness today? And what do I get to eat today? What do I get to bring into my plate today? Okay, and whenever, what we're looking to do here is we are looking to make decisions from that girl or that person or that guy who's your future self. That person who, you know, knows about the balance of nutrition and also pleasurable foods, who wants you to have the best, okay? And think of times whenever you're stressed or you're caught on the go or things haven't gone your way. What do you normally do? You normally then are grabbing for, you know, anything that you can, whatever's in the fridge, whatever, you know, you stop off at the garage, because the plan hasn't been in place for you. So you're literally looking to think, what do I want to eat today? What do I get to eat today? And that can be whatever breakfast you have in mind, that can be a lunch, that can be your dinner, and then think of some snacks that you want to put in there as well, okay? And it has to be realistic. So meeting yourself where you're at. If every single night you get a tub of ice cream out, and that is something you do, you want to plan that in. Now, most people be like, what? You know, because of diet and rules, they tell me I can't have this. You want to meet yourself where you're at and start to say, I know I'm going to do this. And I do this with clients all the time. You know, I know I'm going to do this. You know, you're going to have the crisps. You know, you're going to have the chocolate. So it's not about all or nothing. It's about making it realistic, okay? So you put it in, you plan it in. And you then learn to eat the foods you love responsibly, on purpose, and enjoy it. The realistic plans allow you to eat the food you want and learn how to do so in a controlled and realistic way. It helps you gain control over your mind around food and unlearn the outdated diet rules, such as I can't have that, I shouldn't be having that. It helps you try a new way of eating by asking yourself, how can I do a little better? And that's the key. And a really good book, I think I've talked about it before, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. He's talks about 1% increase every day and how that really helps us. How can I do a little better? Your plan needs to be 8 out of 10 or better. So you need to know what you have in your plan. 80% you're going to follow it through. It needs to be easy and doable, and do not expect perfection, okay? So you're literally going to take a few moments out of your morning, out of the night before, and you're going to put in there, do you know what? This is my plan. This is what I am going to have. I'm 80% sure this is what's going to be on my plan. You bring all foods to the table. You wait until you're hungry. You're honoring your hunger, and you're stopping when you've had enough. Trust me, this is life-changing whenever it comes to having a totally different relationship with food. Now, you do not expect perfectionism. Will there be times whenever you don't eat according to your plan? Absolutely, of course. And those are the times what we're going to do is we're going to use all of that as feedback. We're going to use that as a roadmap. So if you make your plan and you know every night at 7 o'clock, you're off it, you've planned nothing in there, but yet every night at 7 o'clock, you're having ice cream, then that's whenever that's giving you a roadmap to know, to look at, let's look at the 7 o'clock, what needs to happen there. Not what should happen, but what needs to happen. What are your needs at that moment? So if somebody's sitting, for example, and they are having a liter of ice cream at night, then, you know, plan that in. If that's happening anyway, you plan it in. And then that's called meeting yourself where you're at. Then what you do is you start to do a little better. So a little better might be Tonight I'm going to get a bowl out, I'm going to put it in a bowl. A little better might be tonight I'm going to have a higher quality one, I'm going to have the best one in a bowl. Tonight I'm going to actually not sit in front of the TV whenever I do it, I'm going to take it to the table, I'm really going to enjoy it. Tonight I might have it really slowly and decide when I've had enough of this ice cream, I'm going to stop. It's small steps. It's small changes then that helps you honor who you are and you're listening to your body. You might find actually tonight I'm going to listen to myself and ask myself, why do I go for the ice cream every single night? I'm going to ask myself, what is going on for me? Actually, this is nothing to do with ice cream. This is to do with not liking the job I have. This is to do with being in a relationship that's really annoying me. This is to do with frustration I have about a particular situation. You know, it can be anything, but you're going to use the times whenever you are going unconscious or you're disconnecting from your body or you find your plan is out the window to learn, to bring it to your awareness and say, do you know what, this is going to actually teach me so much here as well. So you can understand why we talked about hyper consciousness at the start. It's about becoming conscious. It's about becoming aware. What is going on with me and my relationship with food, eating, body and weight, and how can I start to be aware, understand, know that I want to change, and I'm going to make small steps in that direction. And those small steps involve listening to my body when I'm hungry, honoring my fullness, connecting, bringing all foods to the table. Everybody knows me, knows I love chocolate, have it most days, do you know what I mean? And listening to my body and having a plan in place as well. Okay, so that is us for week 2. I'm going to stop the recording. Let me work this out, and then we can have some questions. If anybody's any questions, see if I can get the